Welcome, everybody, to episode number 55 of the Roses and Rhetoric podcast. Joining me, as always, my charming co host,
Joseph Stanford.
and joining us by way of Zoom, a musical guest, Luka James. Luka, thank you also for being here.
Thank you so much.
So, we're actually going to talk with Luka about his new hit single that came out fairly recently, Hazy Dreams. Before doing that, we're going to spend a little bit of time getting to know the author themselves. Luka, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your background.
Yeah. I grew up in New York City, Greenwich Village, around a lot of amazing artists, poets, just riding my scooter around the city blocks.
What kind of scooter?
I had a Razor scooter.
All right, good. We can continue the show.
Were there other options at that point? I don't know.
Not
like
for this show.
Old, Yeah, I wasn't like Google, gone to Amazon looking for like product reviews of scooters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in New York. Still live here mostly. I grew up listening to a lot of strong vocalists. My dad didn't have a lot of range in the car. It was mostly like Steve Winwood, Traffic, Greatest Hits, a lot of Jim Morrison, The Doors, and then I listened to a lot of Radiohead. I don't know, I almost had like a Pavlovian dog conditioning of Radiohead. It's like so. I mean, a lot of people. I think I went to Radiohead concerts and like I look at other people and they're just like singing along as if they're also brainwashed, and it's just like I don't think they realize they're at a concert. They're just like reliving like whatever weird stuff they went through in childhood. But that's I don't know where we're going with this, but
I like it.
Yeah. But I do. I'm doing full-time music now. I also teach. The way I got into music was facilitating and hosting and teaching vocal workshops, vocal/creative workshops. I'm a big believer in like trying to find ways to get over writer's block and like whatever inhibitions you have of not feeling enough or worthy in life, and like trying to ease people into like finding their self-worth, finding a love for the creative path, finding like flow in their artistry, and like I just do that through music and sharing circle singing and a lot of techniques from Bobby McFerrin and a lot of other amazing singers. So that's kind of what I'm about. And yeah, now the music career has just been really taking off, and it's a fun roller coaster.
Great. Luka, another question. Where are you broadcasting from today? I know that I'm here in Tucson, Arizona, and Jimmy's in Houston, Texas. It's always good to know where we're talking from.
I am. Wait, you're from Tucson and the other is from Texas?
Yeah, I'm in Tucson.
Yeah,
amazing.
Jimmy's in Houston.
You're really embodying the Tucson. Like I was gonna say, like you have this like the color palette, like the pinks and the orange. You're just like full Tucson vibes right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, Tucson is for sure a vibe.
Yeah. I'm in Brooklyn, New York right now. Bed-Stuy, do or die, as Spike Lee likes to say.
Okay, cool. East Coast.
East Coast, yeah. I'm like a couple blocks away from Notorious B.I.G. and Jay-Z, Mos Def. A lot of really big rappers came from this area.
Yeah, it seems like you do a lot of traveling just following your Instagram. I see you were in the Olympics up in Washington not too long ago. I see tags from LA. Looks like you've been in Mexico. Do you think that traveling has some impact on your music, or does it influence it in some way? Do they tie together at all?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've been so blessed to be able to travel, and actually, yeah, I mean during the pandemic, I really wanted to get involved with the election and just like grassroots campaigning, getting people like registered. So that's why I left New York City and I just hopped in a car and drove across the country trying to engage people. I played a lot of concerts and outdoor shows to try to drive voter turnout, start political discourse between both sides, just using music as a way to like leverage enthusiasm, to increase enthusiasm. So that's kind of where the travels start. But then also like I'm a huge nature enthusiast. I was able to go to the Olympics, a lot of like Big Sur, California. I just love this country so much. I was very sheltered growing up in New York City. I like didn't really know green space till I was like 20 years old almost. And ever since I found it, I'm just like obsessed with it. And it's really big in the music because nature is my, like, I have a lot of introspection and rumination and self-doubt and things that a lot of us experience. And time again, I turn to nature to help alleviate that stress, and like to help humble my ego so that I'm not like so obsessed with my own narrative.
Mm. And when you use the term green space, is that a reference for like nature in general or something more specifically?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you guys experience, but the whole word nature is like, it's a polemical word in some sense, because I would always say like, oh, we have to leave the city and get into nature. And then like a lot of people would be like, we are nature, you know? And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know what word to use anymore, you know, like, I don't know. It's a very New York thing, you know, like people are like, no, we are nature. The city is also nature. So I'm like, green spaces?
Well,
I
where
don't
can
know.
I go to the bathroom? Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Talk a little more about. I didn't know anything about this thing that you're involved in, these music circles and kind of using music to overcome writer's block. Joe and I have both done some writing as a part of this show's effort, and I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about that, about writer's block, and about strategies you employ for overcoming it. I think this is really interesting that you use music to do that, or as a part of that
Right.
process.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, with the voice, like so much of the writer's block is like the throat shock, or like a lot of people have trauma or tension from growing up being told like, you're not a singer, or like, you're not an artist, or you're this. And so a lot of people, like, before they even try to do music are like, I'm out of like the key. I'm like tone deaf, all this stuff. And it surprises me because like singing is so innate to being a human, I think. And the same way that movement and dance is like very tribal. And it makes me sad when people think that like, oh, I could never do American Idol. Like, it's like, you don't have to do American Idol. Like, you can still sing, like, you don't have to be Mariah Carey. Like, you could still like harmonize or create percussion or rhythm, or like, like you can just sing what I'm singing. And then the two of our voices, because we have different timbres, is like an interesting note. And that's what I'm like. So that's the music part of it. Like, everyone could be a musician, everyone could be a dancer, like anyone could be a writer. It's stuff that's intrinsic to being human. And I don't want us to like lose that. And also, yeah. And so I do also use voice to help people get out of their, like the biggest obstacle for a lot of people is themselves. And I think like, I just want to give people that nudge. And with our vocal workshops, a lot of people are like petrified of singing. They like won't even sing in the shower. And they show up. I like convince them somehow to show up. It's a very like warm, loving group. And it's just about like realizing like no one's perfect at first. Your podcast, probably the first one was awkward, and you're like, what are we doing?
How dare you? All right, this show is over. And no, you're absolutely right about that.
Podcast number 1 was awkward. I went back and watched it. It was totally weird. Bored. Podcast 2 got better, and now you're at your best one, which is today.
We couldn't agree
probably
more.
the first 52 were probably awkward.
Yeah, till today.
Yeah, right. Well, I think this is really something that ties in very nicely with this thing that Joe and I have been talking about a lot, which is just kind of how creativity is so innate to being a person. And of course, creativity and artwork, go hand in hand. I mean, they're almost, maybe even in some sense, the same thing, if not very similar. So I'm all about exploring ways of getting people to be creative into it, basically just explore things, whether it be a new talent like singing, or a new idea through singing or through writing or whatever it may be. I think that's really great that you're getting people to actively, challenge themselves in those realms. I think that's a real key to human progress.
100%.
Yeah. And Luka, just to add to that, funny enough, I was listening to a podcast with Mike Tyson the other day, and he had a quote on creativity that I thought was really interesting. I wrote it down. He said that being creative is not having conflict with yourself. And that really stood out to me, because I think that act of going through and removing conflict from yourself really does open creativity. Because like, if you're someone who's like stressed out, you got a lot of like baggage in your mind, a lot going on, like you don't really have any bandwidth for creativity. So like you said, maybe something like using music or going out into nature or other things like that can really just help to unleash those blocks. So I think it's great that you mentioned that.
I never knew I would be in awe of Mike Tyson's perspective on creativity, but I am, you know, it's true. And it's like, yeah, it's just about it's like learning how to ride a bike. You know, you're not going to be the best cyclist at first, but it's just like not having that fear to just go for it, you know, and realize like you're only going to get better by practicing and doing it. So yeah, 100%.
And that's another question I had is, just from following you on Instagram and whatnot, it seems like you're somebody that seems to be maybe immune to people's opinions of them, or maybe like embarrassment more overall. Like you're just not afraid to go out and just start singing in the middle of the square, for example, or in the middle of public. When
whoa. Are you saying I'm not good? You say, no, it's kidding.
No,
I mean, the fear is real. The fear is real always, you know. I have so much fear, and it's like, I think there's that Henry Fonda quote where people are like, how did you get over, you know, like, how are you so brave on the stage? And he's like, actually, I throw up before every performance, you know. And this is like one of the biggest like theater stars. And I think the fear never goes away. If the fear goes away, then you're not really pushing yourself and you're not challenging yourself. The fear for me, when I do stuff, yeah, I try to sing in the middle. I'd like busk or sing in the middle of something, or, you know, if I'm feeling terrible, I'll still try to like sing and just like be awkward. And the queasiness, the fear, the doubts, all that is there. And that's why I try to do it, you know, and it's just kind of like dancing with fear.
Well, and I think it's very much a sign, the uncomfortableness, that feeling is very much an indication that you're on the frontier of something, that you're discovering something about yourself. There's that sense of the unknown when you're performing. How will this turn out? What am I going to do? That sense of discovery. If you're feeling uncomfortable, it means that, you know, you're really on the verge of something. Otherwise, if it feels comfortable, then you've been there before. You're no longer, you know, creating something new.
Exactly. And also, like, I want people to see the accessibility. Like, again, my whole motto is trying to get more people to be creative. I don't want people to be like, come to me at Lincoln Center and be a show of mine and be like, wow, he is a, you know, like exquisite, like, you know, like, no, like, I'd rather people see me and be like, he's a fool, you know, like he's crazy.
Well, that's like, been our motto for the past 50 episodes.
Exactly. You know, it's like, I want people not to be in like awe of me. I want them to be inspired, and maybe they'll respect my craft or the effort I'm putting into it. But I rather them go home and do it themselves rather than be like, wow, music is like, they're like untouchable, you know? So that's a lot of what I try to bring to music for sure. A playfulness.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people just have this shell that I don't know if it's a self-imposed shell or if it's something that society puts on them. But I mean, what do you see any like common traps that people just fall into over and over that kind of disengage them from their true selves and creativity?
Yeah, I mean, I'm falling into one right now. You know, it's I think the biggest common trap is like compare and despair. So like, especially with social media right now, or the Theodore Roosevelt quote, like, comparison is the thief of joy. I also think comparison is the thief of creative breakthrough. With social media, it's so easy to like, before you even put pen to paper, to like see someone else putting pen to paper and be like, oh, like, no, they're more deserving than me, or like they're better, you know. Especially since we're all competing for eyeballs and attention, or at least that's the illusion they've created. So that's the first thing. You know, Bobby McFerrin, I think it was like 10 years where he didn't listen to another singer because he just was like, I don't want to steal someone else's style, but also like, I want to develop my own sound. And I don't think we have the luxury of that so much in today's age. You know, it's like every time I put out a song or anything, I have like a beautiful recording session, and then I go on Instagram or anything for 1 second, and it's just like someone blowing me, you know, they're like, whoa, actually that's like really good, you know? So I think that's something to be really careful of, is like always comparing ourselves. And then, yeah, it's like the Mike Tyson quote is just, I think the imposter syndrome, and feeling like, you know, this like little voice in your head that's just like, oh, you sounded really bad today. You know, like I could play a concert and have like 90% of people clap, and then one person is just like kind of bored, and then that one person lives in my mind forever, you know. And I'm just like, what, you like what it was that note that I missed, right? Yeah, it was that note. I'm terrible at that, you know. And it's just like no one else is paying attention to it. I don't know why. I don't know what evolutionary benefit it is to have that like mental rumination, but it exists, and that's part of circumventing the ego to ascend past that doubt and that inhibition.
Yeah, maybe it's some form of evolutionary baggage rather than a function. Because,
right. You haven't got
to weigh us down more than anything.
It's like, can I actually tackle that woolly mammoth and cut its throat and then feed the whole village? Or should I probably like get other people and wait a month to like, you know, it's like,
right.
That's where maybe it's coming from.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up social media, and this is something that I talked with one of our mutual friends, Tyler, about. He's very like, we talk about how social media can be that double-edged sword. Like, it can be a useful tool for promotion and marketing and getting music out there and getting like your message out there. But at the same time, it can bring on this comparison phenomenon, this idea that this person has what I want, or these people aren't giving me the approval that I need, and it can really just bring you down a hole, like you said. How do you manage those two extremes with your social media? Because it seems like you're more or less engaged with Instagram and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a new thing. My girlfriend's like was really good at it, and so I kind of learned it this last year in the pandemic, because I was like not around friends and stuff. So I'm like, how do I share? I was like just starting to release music, and then I'm like, wait, I only release through like live shows and stuff. Like, I don't do the social media thing. And then I was like, well, we might be isolated for the next 10 years, so you better find a way. So I just started kind of like playing with it, trying to like have fun with it, and yeah, see its benefits. It's crazy. Yeah, like I've had some really cool connections. I've found like music managers and like bass guitarist collaborators and like music producers, and I don't know what dimension the world is and like the algorithm works, but I mean, if you do put yourself out there, it can be rewarding if you're like, yeah, putting yourself out there, connecting with people, not being afraid to introduce yourself to someone you respect. And I don't know. And then also, yeah, I've been self-conscious about sharing like my life at times, like going into nature and just meditating, or like the ways I like to live an alternative lifestyle. But then I realized that, if people are seeing me in nature and they're like jealous, or they're like, oh, like that's cool, I can never do that. Maybe at least they're thinking like, should I take more time to get into a park, or like, dance in the middle of the street? So yeah, there's wonders of it. And I think it's just, I don't know. Have you guys read the book Siddhartha?
Yeah, by Hazy.
Yeah. It's just that like, I relate a lot to social media, and like when Siddhartha was getting into the market and started to become this like gambler. And as at first it's like, oh, I still have my principles. I kind of like know how to manage this. I'm just kind of experiencing, I'm playing with like what everyone else does, but then you kind of get, it loops you in, and then like you kind of can lose sense of your foundation. So everyone says like have a healthy relationship with social media, just post, don't really consume as much, blah, blah, blah. Like don't take it too seriously. But there's a powerful force in there that's also trying to throw you off your center and your balance, I can't even speak to that, because I've been looking at it like when I used to always meditate when I woke up, and lately as the weather's getting colder here, I've been like looking at my phone and like things like that. And I'm caught in the whirlpool at the moment.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I think we all are. No, I think we can all relate to that. I think I don't know really. I think with social media, it's like I don't really know if there's a sidelines anymore. I mean, I think we're all engaged in it. I don't know that we can just be spectators, because even the spectating is a part of the system. It's you're now a like for somebody else. You're now a dislike for somebody else. I mean, it's hard to really, I think, maintain a kind of, I'll just observe kind of, I don't know how long-term a solution that really is. I think it inevitably ends up pulling you in more than you would like it to. by
Yeah.
design. I
Yeah,
think
especially, well, the thing is, I mean, a lot of my friends who are like lawyers and doctors and stuff, like they don't need it as much, you know, it's easy for them to not, maybe they're on it a lot, I don't know,
Right.
but they're not worrying about if people like their selfie at a rest, you know, it's like different, but for artists and people that are entrepreneurs or creating things,
Right.
interesting dichotomy of like, those are often the people that don't want to be on their phone all day, but
Right.
yet it's like somehow they have to be because they're
Yeah,
trying
they
to
have to.
introduce something unique to the world and like,
Right.
yeah, like what you're doing.
That's a really good dissection of that, actually. I think that was really well said.
Thanks. I think the rooster agrees.
I think it's the tea that you're drinking versus the coffee that Joe and I are drinking. Joe, let me ask you this: did you have any other questions for Luka, kind of as the artist, or did you want to dive into the music review?
I'm sure some more will unearth as we go, but I think once you tease the music video.
So, Luka, as I'm sure you know, as an avid fan of the show, we do have our official Roses and Rhetoric musical correspondent who put a little piece together, a little, not really a review, more of a tasting, if you will, of the single "Hazy Dreams." So, Joe, let's go ahead and share that and get Luka's feedback on it.
Okay. My internet connection's been a little unstable, so if it goes out, just let me know. But here's the review, or here's the tasting. When it comes to the matters of the head and heart, I found that the heart almost always wins. That brings us to this week's music review of the track Hazy Dreams by Luka James. Hazy Dreams is a bright and wistful song about preserving the passion of a waning romance while dreaming. Luka's voice is soft and subtle. He layers his voice and uses distortion to create a semi-lucid, hallucinatory feeling. The drums are reminiscent of a sleeping heartbeat. The rest of the instrumentation creates a sense of ambivalence. The acoustic guitar and synthesizers give the warmth and excitement of a passionate affair, while the strings and Fender Rhodes evoke the cold yearning of a lost love. Overall, Hazy Dreams is plush and ethereal. For the best listening experience, I'd recommend listening to Hazy Dreams early in the morning with a cup of Joe before reality sets in. And I can attest to that because that essentially was my morning this morning.
As it was mine as well.
So what do you think, Luka?
Wow. I'm very touched. This is like the second beautiful review I had this week. There was one in Zune magazine, which was a big surprise. And likewise, it's scary putting stuff out. And then it's interesting having people dissect it and then they kind of see it for even more than like, I mean, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, of course. Yeah. The Fender Rhodes. Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. Wow. I'm having a moment with that. It's very, it felt like a serenade of words. And, you know, it's been like 2 years of really hard work on all these songs that I've been doing and even collaborating with Tyler on them in New Mexico, and just like a lot of sleepless, restless nights, a lot of like doubt, confusion, a lot of pain that I put away, kind of resurfacing to create the art. And then hearing other people be able to go into that dream space and to have a moment, you know, we're like so alone sometimes in this world. And I think art is beautiful because it's like for a moment we could actually share like a conscious platform or like a subconscious platform and feel actually like a collective unconsciousness. And hearing that, it's like, it feels very validating. I love it. Yeah.
Well, I thought we might kind of split talking the song up into maybe two parts. One kind of more on the lyrics, but then the second, for people who don't know, who are listening to the show, there's a beautiful music video that goes with the song. It's on YouTube. Hazy Dreams. We'll post it below the video, but you'll be able to find it really easily. I mean, the video in and of itself, the cinematography was spectacular, actually. So I guess Tell us a little bit about the history of the song. You say in the video description that yourself and the other kind of main character, the music video, the woman in the video, actually know each other outside of just that artistic space. You guys actually have a relationship of sorts. I don't want to give too much away, but if you maybe could give a little bit of kind of the history and inspiration for the song, and then maybe we can go into some of the lyrics of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just put these flowers. I'm a cinematographer also, so I'm like constantly thinking, I'm like, okay, we got the rule of thirds here, we got this plant. Thought it was fitting now that we're getting into the music video and stuff, you know, maybe here, okay. Yeah, where do I start? I mean, the song is, you know, like there's a lot of breakup songs, there's a lot of love songs, but are there the in-betweens, you know, like, and I think a lot of modern romance is very complicated, and like, the way technology is exponentially evolving at a pace that is, you know, rapid and like hard to even grasp. So is romance in a lot of ways, you know, like how we relate to each other, and like open relationships and polyamory and things like, I mean, in New York, it's like, oh, you know, like you have to like even like ask, it's like, oh, you have a boyfriend, like, are you open? You know, like whatever. It's like everything is confusing, and it's not, I think it's beautiful. It's, you know, we're evolving how we see gender, we're evolving how we see race, we're evolving how we see relationships, we're evolving how we see economics. It's amazing. But I think for me in this song is like, I wanted to create like a nuanced romantic song that is the in-between, which is like a breakup, but also like, yeah, it was like not, it was a complicated breakup, you know, it was like still a lot of love, knowing you have to let go, but like being stubborn, you know, like a baby almost about like, you know, everyone says like, yeah, just let go. Like everything has changed. Change is the only constant. And you're like, no, like screw that. Like,
right.
I'm going to immortalize this. Like, I'm going to fight the rules of gravity. You know, it's a song that's trying to defy the rules. And and I think the rule for change is like, everything has changed, you know, and you're like, no, like I'm going to be frozen in time. And like, I'm going to hang on to this thought, and I'm going to like not let go. And I don't know if it's better or for worse, but I'm sure other people go through that. You know, it's not, the song isn't self-help. The song is kind of like my own, it's the opposite. It's
Right.
like self-destruction. And it's like, here, like, I'm doing it the wrong way, but like, listen to it, you know, like, yeah. Yeah. And then the music video, the music video was a lot of fun to create. The music video is, so the song is one part of my life, and then the music video is a whole new part of my life, which is a real relationship I have with Morgana Van Peebles, who's an actress and director, comes from an amazing filmmaking family. And we were like heating up a beautiful romance, and then the pandemic hit, and then it was kind of like, probably not gonna ever see you again vibes, and it was pretty hard for me. And then I kept trying to like entice her to come. She was in California, I was in Ithaca. I kept trying to get her to come over and at least spend like 3 more days, you know. I was like, we just need to like end it on a good note, because we were about to become like boyfriend and girlfriend. And then it's just like, oh, I was like, wait, we have to just like in person say goodbye, you know. And that's also what the song is about. It's like not feeling like this new relationship was ready to let go of, and like trying to fight through a pandemic to make it exist. And it was challenging, and she ended up taking that leap of faith and driving across the country and coming up to Ithaca, New York, where I was living. And she brought her Super 8 camera and filmed like a lot of really beautiful moments of us just like exploring nature and exploring each other, exploring, you know, this dream state of like a budding romance. And I'm so grateful that it's captured on film, you know, like real film, because it feels very, when people have responded to it in beautiful ways, because they are seeing like a fully authentic relationship blossom. And I think it's a really cool use of Super 8. And then the film didn't fully make sense till I looked at it a year later, and I was like, okay, I got to put the music video together. And then we decided to film the end scenes is the present, where I'm a little bit more disheveled and my hair is grown, and it's like, actually I'm watching this budding romance, and the film is my memories, and then I'm like fighting to like relive that. And it actually, the dual medium actually came out really beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was shot in Super 8. That's dope. And you're right, as you say, like it did create that super authentic feel. Like it's you know, a lot of music videos are staged and whatnot, but I think having that Super 8 compounded with just the authenticity of the relationship really just knocked it out of the park for that one. I mean, it was an awesome video, and I'm glad you released it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, means a lot. Means a lot. I edited it and like filmed a lot of it, and you know, the budget was like way under what anyone said I could do it for. So I'm happy people are responding to it in a positive way because it's real.
Did you do the video editing for it?
Yeah. I had some help at a friend at the very end. My friend kind of just like took a day or like a half day to like move some stuff and make it a little bit more dynamic. But yeah, I did the editing for it, a lot of the directing. Yeah.
Okay. And before Jimmy gets into the lyrics here, I just have one question because it keeps coming up. The Rhodes piano, or the Fender Rhodes. Can you explain what that is to me?
Yeah, I mean, Tyler would be even better, but Tyler and I share a passion for like not just like computer digital sounds, and there's like millions of sound libraries and like patches and everything. And what was really cool about, it's one of the reasons that I took the leap and I drove like 16 hours to New Mexico to see Tyler in his like little cabin he found on Craigslist. Because we both shared this idea of like creating a sound that felt the same way Super 8 is like a tangible beauty, is how I feel about like the Fender Rhodes and the Wurlitzer keys. They're basically like vintage keyboards, like analog keyboards, pianos, that have a really beautiful sound. And a lot of people don't use them as much if you're doing the recording in your bedroom because they're expensive, they're hard to upkeep, and they're really heavy to move. So people much rather just have like a little MIDI keyboard that, you know, you can get very similar sounds to. But I have been getting a lot of beautiful responses because people still, with all the digital advancements, people still feel the Fender Rhodes, and they still feel the actual like guitar, and like how we're not just like doing it in post, but we're, you know, putting it through pedals and then like miking the amps and stuff, or like putting it through a different preamp and a lot of the sounds. And then, you know, like different mixing people will be like, oh, it's kind of harder now because I can't just like quantize it as easily, like match up the timing. But you get this imperfect kind of catharsis, which both Tyler and I really love.
Well, so actually had a question in here that I was going to ask later on, but it ties perfectly into what you were just talking about. And I kind of wanted to talk about the technology that you employed in the cinematography. And you touched on basically what I wanted to ask about, which was the equipment that you guys use. And I thought, let me just ask you this too. Was there a moment when you were working on either the recording, the editing, maybe even the actual, you know, performing, where there was an idea for a technology that you wanted that didn't exist? Was there any kind of technology that you found yourself thinking, oh, if I only had XYZ, I could do this thing much better? Did that come about when you were doing this video, or even just the song itself?
Technology. I think it's more like old stuff, you know, like Tyler had this like tape, like a tape delay, like an analog tape delay. And that was just really cool because it's like what we were talking about at the beginning with creativity. Sometimes when you have the world of creative tools at your hands, if you gave me 50,000 colors to paint with, I'm just going to be like,
right, too much.
Okay. If you give me like one color, you know, I was like, yeah, I have one color. And so I think parameters is another, I didn't think we mentioned this, but like having creative parameters, giving yourself like limitations, like I can only paint with like, you know, one finger or whatever. And I think with music, it's cool to use the analog stuff because you have limitations to it. And so I really loved using that like analog tape delay. I really loved using like the electric guitars and some of the things. I mean, yeah, it was nice to have like a DAW like with Logic and different things, but no, I mean, I can't say like more technology. I think just like it's cool to just give yourself like a set amount of things you can use.
And that's a great answer. I like that quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
Avoid the decision fatigue.
Yes.
I get that all the time.
Totally. I only go to the same coffee shop now in Brooklyn.
Is that where you
I get my cup of coffee. I walk there, I come back, I do my work.
We're all about repetition here on episode number 55 of oh, very good. Go, I'll give it back to you. I think you have one coming up.
Yeah, I'm just more interested in getting to the lyrics now. I think that's a big part of it.
Are you sure you want to dive into the lyrics?
Always. We actually love diving into lyrics. For people,
I love that.
Yeah, for people that saw our show we're talking about Tyler, but people know him on the show probably as Miss Abysmal. We had a lot of fun talking with him about his lyrics, and I always love kind of unpacking the metaphors.
I love that.
Let's start. I'm gonna try not to put words in your mouth. I'm gonna make it what I think is a fair assessment of the word hazy and hazy dreams that you used to describe this. That the fact that it's hazy, I think the listener is permitted to imagine the singer is perhaps not just remembering, but maybe romanticizing the past a bit as well. And that it's hazy because they're adding in some detail. Is it fair to assume that the singer is maybe remembering things better than they really were, or is that going too far?
Yeah, I mean, I like that interpretation a lot. I think the song had more of that interpretation when it started. And now I have a new interpretation for Hazy Dreams, which I like. And that is that the American capitalistic culture, whatever, it's like we grow up and they're like, dream. You go around the world, like a lot of people aren't asked that constantly. People are like, hustling in a different way. But we're so much about like, what do you dream to be? What is your dreams to grow up? How do you dream to change the world? And I realized like my life dreams haven't been always clear, and like, I don't always know what I want, and I think there's this pressure to like, go for your dream and go for it, kid. And the same way that my life has been a hazy dream, it's been like, I have a dream, but I have a lot of doubt with it. I'm unsure about it. It's the same way with a lot of romances. It's like, wow, I love this person, but like, are they the right one? Am I like doing good by them? And so it's a lot about this, like, it's this idea of like, you have this dream, this beautiful thing, but it's not perfect. It's not clear. It's not like every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm going to be a singer star. Like, it's going to be great. And I'm going to sing on American Idol. Everyone's going to cry. I'm going to cry. And there's going to be fireworks and confetti. And it's like, no, my dreams are like diluted. And the haze is kind of like moving through the haze to kind of find like, okay, I see where I'm going. And then the haze comes back and you're lost. And you're like, wait, where's my North Star? And then it comes again and you're like, oh, that way. So that's kind of how I interpret it now.
So where would you say your North Star has been recently?
It's Rose's Rhetoric podcast.
Obviously.
Right. There you go.
The voice of reason.
Yeah. Mike Tyson. My North Stars is finding the love for what I do, because like it's, a lot of people have been like, oh, like you've released your song, everyone's like, a bunch of people are listening to it, oh my gosh, you're like, you must be so happy. And I actually was pretty sad when I released it, and I was like stressed, and it felt like I could be doing a lot more to get it out there, and I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I was like, well, what is this next? Like, I should be doing bigger shows. And like, I didn't really take a moment to feel like the dream or the North Star. So I think that now the North Star is the moment, and just enjoying the process and not just being so caught up on the dream, and just being like, I'm living the dream. I don't know.
So I actually, this song came to me at a very, kind of interesting time in my life. Joe and I just finished maybe a few months ago now talking about a book called The Beginning of Infinity. It seems like probably every episode I bring it up. It's given me quite a lot to think about with regards to how humans place themselves in the present, past, and future. And I was listening to your song, and I had this idea that the past is the place the imagination goes when it wants to be free of any responsibility. And if we imagine about the future, there's always a chance that there might come a point when we have to act upon our imagination. But if we limit our imagination to the past, we are divorced of any responsibility, because it will never come true. The past has already happened. When you found yourself, or when the author of the song found themselves remembering the past, was it a way to avoid thinking about the future?
Damn. It's a good question. Yeah, I think I live a lot in nostalgia, you know, and maybe it is a way to. I don't know. Yeah, that's something that I gotta like sleep with and sit on. To be honest, it's
Have a hazy dream about, and then come back on the
yeah. I
show
have a
and
hazy
episode
dream
number.
about it. I have a hazy dream about it. We'll do a follow up. But I think that what I think about when I hear that is, again, our theme today has really been about creative inhibition and writer's block, and that what you said, a lot of people that I've spoken to in the creative world, that's another inhibition, is they're like, well, I wish I picked up guitar when I was 14. You know, I did for a month and then I got distracted and now it's too late. And I think that's something that I'm interested, that I have it a lot, you know, people, I'm like a vocalist and they're like, you know, that would have been great if you did it when you were like 16, like Harry Styles. And I'm like, when I was 16, I was like, you know, like skateboarding and playing video. I wasn't ready for that. And like everyone has their own timing, you know, and I think that is, I relate to that in terms of like, it's easy to look back on your life and to give it an excuse for why you're not following the dream and the thing you want to do. But if you just start playing guitar tomorrow, you know, like there was this like actress, I think in the Black Panther movie, who was like 90 or like 88. And it was like their first acting role. And then they got into Black Panther and they were part of the biggest movie of all time. And they had like, you know, and it's just like, you never know. Like, you never know. There's not a linear time scale, I think, of like when you can and can't do things. And that is a limiting belief that I think we can get past.
Yeah, it's never too late.
Yeah, I thought there's a really good quote. There's a good documentary about jujitsu on YouTube. And I remember at one point, there's a person and he's an instructor and he's talking to a potential client. And the client goes, oh, you know, I'm already 40 years old, and if I start now, I won't become a black belt until I'm 50. And the guy goes, well, in 10 years, you're going to be 50 no matter what. You want to have a black belt or not? Like, we're not going to stop time. You know, where this idea of, oh, I won't be great until I'm older. Well, you're going to be older anyways, you fucking retard. Like, do you want to be great when you're older, or do you want to be, you know, do you want to be who you are now when you're older? I mean, I really like that a lot about that actress, because why would you use the idea that you're old to as an excuse to not improve yourself? You're going to continue to get older no matter what you do. You can't escape that. You may as well find a way to improve yourself so that when you become older, you're a better person.
Yeah. And that again is beautiful, and it ties into enjoying the process. You know, it's a cliche, like enjoy the journey, not the end place or the destination, but it's so true. And like with jiu-jitsu, it's like, well, you're gonna have 10 years of like doing this, like building new neural pathways and like moving your body and like and just like getting out and like being in community, and like great, you might have a black belt in 10 years, but like it's not about that. Like and like that's what I'm trying to find now with music. It's like not about me having a platinum record. It's about me like loving to play music because it heals me.
Yeah. Enjoying every day of the time period that you eventually get to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned living in community. This is something that I've been looking at recently, and how powerful a community can be. I mean, just specifically, for example, I was at a music festival this last weekend, and just the how the vibe changes, how time kind of slows down, how things kind of just change in general when you're living like in a community, like amongst other people, rather than just being alone in your house or something. I mean, it sounds like you've probably lived in communities like that before. Do you think that those add to your creative process, or you think it just kind of depends on the person, whether or not that's advantageous for them or helpful for their mental state?
Yeah, I think the idea of a village and community is another thing intrinsic to being a human. It's I don't know if like before 1940s or 50, you know, before World War II, like who didn't live in a community of some sorts. It's not this idea of like hippies. It's not like a new concept, like hippies living in a commune or whatever. It's like, oh, community, that word is invented after the 50s. It's like, no, I think community is really important. It gives you a sense of purpose. It gives you a sense of like my brother and sister's keeper, my neighbor's keeper. I'm going to look out for someone other than myself. It doesn't have to be just people you're living with. It could be a global community if you have that. But I know for me, I love living in community. That's one of the things that we have in Brooklyn. We have a community house. And it's not like such a crazy idea. It's not like we're all living like running around naked or anything. It's like simple things. Just like,
Well, I'm out.
yeah, I mean, we have that. I got you. Like, I know
Yeah,
the
yeah,
naked community for
yeah.
you.
Find me in the DM. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll DM you the
Yeah,
naked
yeah, yeah.
communities. But yeah, like it's just like, man, I'm such a proponent of it. I know I need it in my life. I love when I'm having a bad day, like someone kind of getting me out, going for a run. I love like being able to be inspired. If I'm playing a composition, I love seeing someone like make an architectural piece and then being like, oh wow, like it just helps me get out of my personal narrative and I can't carry the world on my shoulder. I can't carry my mental health on my shoulders by myself. I can't carry my career on by myself. And so it's nice to kind of like help out someone else's career and help out someone else's day and then also feel the same for yourself. And I think a lot of our generation is seeing that, you know, it's like they see this idea of like isolation and more like micro, yeah, like more Netflix, more social media, you know, like all that stuff. And I think
Instacart.
it's kind of this breaking free of that and being like, whoa, like I just want to like go to Joe's house or whatever and like I want to like do a potluck dinner and just like no
Right.
phone, like talk and like whatever.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think every one of my friends, including myself, has expressed that feeling of like, it'd be nice to go somewhere and not have to, you know, not have it be in the context of something else, like a
Yeah.
business meeting, or it's like, why can't I just be with someone else? It has to be in the context of something else that in a way kind of degrades it. I think that's, you know, one of the benefits growing up I had was I lived in a neighborhood, and that was very much that idea that you knew your neighbors knew you, and we all were friends and got along. And I feel that a lot of my friends or people that I know even don't have that experience, and I think it does, you know, take something away. It turns you into a kind of a very narrow person because you don't have other people to kind of balance you out. So I agree with that quite a bit, actually.
Totally. Yeah, I mean it's sad in New York we've lost a lot of that, and I think we're trying to, as like a lot of New Yorkers are trying to create things to refine that.
Let me ask you this question, Luca, and it's really two, but I think maybe they're kind of related, and it has to deal with this idea. So you write the song, you perform the song, and then I imagine the music video and the kind of the idea for it came after the song was already completed. And it has to deal with the idea that artists and audiences interrelate with regards to interpretation. When you make a music video, when you decide to put a definite visual form to a musical composition, do you fear that you are putting too narrow an interpretation on your musical work to the audience?
Yeah, 100%. Um, that's something I struggled with. I was going to release the music video and the song the same day. And then people were like, no, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, why? I don't want to spam people. Like one day, here's my art. Bye. You know, I kind of had that approach. I was like,
In and out.
in and out, you know, like, okay, then let's go on to like me posting my cat, like whatever. But people were like, no, you got to give people at least a week to like visually see it. And I think that's what's beautiful about like reading a book, you know, instead of watching a movie. It's like you're interpreting a data point and then you're creating this whole imagination. And I think music does that for me too, you know, and it could throw
Absolutely.
me off, you know, if I hear like a Bon Iver song and then I see like a visual and then I'm like, oh no, I was picturing something completely different. And
Right.
that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of art and something we all have to be careful of, trying to like grab attention and fit into niches and fit into genres and everything. It's like allowing more space for interpretation and room and I'm happy because the feedback the reviews you sent me and then also the review in Zune magazine was similar to that. They said like I offered a lot of subtleties and like it was like my voice was soft and like there's a lot of space and it's hard because when I first released a song I was like, oh, I should have made like a freaking like house track, you know, like a tropical, you know, I'm like, there's this desire to want to be liked and like fit into what people are listening to at the gym or whatever. You're like, no, it's like, damn, there's no genre for this. This isn't genre specific at all. Like no one's going to know how to listen to this, you know, like I love how you said like have a cup right before a cup of coffee, you know, that's perfect. We need to create a new genre, like the post dream pre-coffee genre. But yeah, I think like giving space to your art is so important, and that's the art that I digest, you know, because it should be collaborative with the viewer and the artist's imagination.
Well, and so in kind of the follow-up to that question, and you actually kind of already alluded to it earlier, but I was really interested, the idea that after you made your song, so you made your song, you kind of had this idea of what the song meant, but then as you spent more time with it, and in particular when you made the video, you began to understand the song in a different way, that kind of your understanding of the video changed and you kind of knew how to end it. To me, that was really interesting because it brings again this notion that art is really about discovery, and that even an artist is engaged in that process of discovery as well, that they're kind of finding out things about what they themselves created. I thought that was really an interesting point that you made earlier on.
Yeah, totally. It's it's an organism that you put out there, and it's living, like anything that's living, if it's like a mycelium or a plant, it's not artificial. And that's the cool thing about art. Is definitely, it's going to live in different ways. Like I just released a dance video of like everybody who danced and moved to the song, and they were like sending me these videos, and I was like, I didn't expect this to have a dance moment, but they were like twirling, like everyone at the end, it's like Hazy Dreams keep spinning, and then like all these people are like spinning, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like I thought that'd be like more than like crying with like tissues, like,
right.
And it's like, no, like this is fun, I'm like, great, like that's how it lives. And I think that's cool about art. It's like, and that's again, creative innovation, all that stuff. It's like, create something, you don't know how it's gonna evolve, like how people will take it, and it's not about you. It's not like your creation. It's like something is passing through you.
Yeah.
You are this like schema or whatever to put it out.
It's like filter.
Yeah. It's like a filter. Like it's not about you. It's like, I don't know, the best creativity books really reiterate that often. Like it's like you are just a filter for the muse.
Joe, I'll give it back to you. I asked 2 in a row. That's
Oh no, I'm soaking that in. I love that concept of how it's alive. It's like once you put it out there, who knows what direction it's going to turn. I mean, I think we've experienced that with our show. The reception isn't always what we intended it to be, but a lot of times it's even better than what we wanted it to be. So I definitely agree with that. Luka, I know we're probably running a little short on time here. Did you have any questions for us, or Jim, did you have any more questions for Luka?
Well, I think, we can't talk about a song called Hazy Dream without talking about sleep hygiene. I mean, Luka, how important are 8 hours to you, and what do you do to ensure that you get?
Oh, I don't sleep.
Oh, even better. Just why your dreams are so easy, my friend.
I never slept ever. No, I sleep too much, honestly, maybe. I don't know. I think my relationship with sleep is like, oh, I just slept like 9 hours. Is that like productive? And then I'm more at a stage in my life where I'm not, this idea of like, I don't sleep. Sleep is the cousin of death. Like that Nas quote. It's like, there's a lot of this. I'm trying to see sleep not as like anti-productive, but actually like, I'm not living when I'm sleeping. There's like a whole, like I had some crazy dreams last night, and I don't even know, like, where does that come from? It's so refreshing to have a dream that's just like, that idea was nuts. Like I never thought about that, like.
Yeah, I agree. Sleep has been one thing, and Joe can attest to this, that I essentially put no value on in college, and probably why I'm so short. I never had my college year growth spurt, but I think as I've gotten older, finding sleep more valuable and more enjoyable has been definitely part of growing up for me as well.
Well, plus once you get a good night's sleep, it just makes like the daylight hours where you are awake like that much more enjoyable. Like there's nothing worse than just being sleep deprived and just being forcing yourself to have to stay awake for something. Like that's
what does prefer a hazy dream to a hazy day? I think I speak for all of us when I say.
There we go. Yeah, that's a great product placement.
Thanks. Yes. Well, Joe, anything else? Use that. Did you have any other questions? Or then, and Luka, of course, whatever you wanted to cover as well. That was all my stuff. Those are my last 2. I think I really did enjoy the song. I listened to it a number of times, and I thought it was just completely fantastic.
Thank you. It's the beginning. Yeah, like for everyone, please, if any listeners of the show, like let's keep building community. You could follow me on Instagram, Luka James _ Luka with a K. And why follow me or why be part of this journey? That's, not just to digest the art, but also I love like, if you ever have feedback on music or if you want to be part of our singing communities that are both going to be on the West Coast and the East Coast, if you want to like explore, opening up those creative channels. Also just have a lot of fun videos. I'm a filmmaker, so you're going to see stuff that is weird and like that you probably never seen before. Like I have 4 more songs coming out through the spring, starting January 7th. And I have a little film I did in that I'm going to release in November. So it's just a lot of funky art. I'm just trying to get into that, the same way with creativity. I'm just trying to release things that I think are beautiful. And so that's the journey that I'll be on, and hopefully touring and playing live shows in April and onward through the summer. But I guess my question for you guys is, what do you think the biggest, what nourishes your creativity? What blossoms your creativity? I mean, sorry. What blossoms your curiosity?
Curiosity. The unknown.
The unknown.
Yeah, I think all value lies in discovery. That would be how I would phrase it.
Yeah, I would say that just the act of finding something that's engaging to me, because I know that when I'm in a position where something's engaging to me, that's the place I'm at where I'm going to be producing my best work, my highest quality product, if you will.
Yeah.
So for me, it's almost just a chase of just finding these like Zen areas where I can just reach a flow state. But it's kind of like contradictory, because once you start looking for something, you can't really find it. Like once you start like trying to get yourself in a flow state, it never really comes. So it's just an interesting kind of dichotomy of just finding yourself in these positions without really finding the position. I don't know if that made sense, but
no, that is really interesting. This idea of that the flow state, it is just like, it's this almost unattainable. It's this like thing it's almost like a lucid dream. It's like,
yeah,
there's things you can do, then there's like books that tell you how to get there, but it's still very evasive, and sometimes when you're in the flow state, you're like, oh my God, I'm in the flow state. Oh my gosh, this is it. And then you're out of the flow state,
and then it goes away.
Yeah. So that yearning to be in everything, that the flow state again, and like to yearn to be in the flow state, it's like you're out of the flow. You're like, you're desiring to be in this thing, I don't know. Life is complicated. I think that's what we
do.
That's true. Yeah. That is true. No, I thought that's a great question, and something good to end on. We're talking today with Luka James, and yes, follow him on Instagram, and then check out his song Hazy Dreams. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. There's a music video. There's a music video with lyrics, which I always like. I always like to make sure that I'm hearing the words the right way. It was a beautiful song, and of course, beautiful cinematography as well. So really, just hats off to you and your team for putting that together. It was really just remarkable. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, I think this was a awesome interview and or discussion that we had today. And it's like discussions like this always kind of set me up for the weekend. Like I kind of get like a good rush that rides me at least through the end of the day, if not through tomorrow. So thank you for that, Luka. Yeah,
I feel the same way. Like having a conversation like this, hearing your perspective, it makes the art worth it. Like it's the most important part. It's like, yeah, to be able to have a conversation like this and just like go deeper and art to expand curiosity. Like I'm so grateful for these moments like this. So thank you too for doing what you do.
Hey, we are here for the fans. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Be sure to follow Luka on Instagram.
I'm the fan.
Follow. Very good, very good. Be sure to follow us as well. We are at Roses @_Rhetoric, and of course follow Joe as well at Jose _Cuervo. Until next time, I'm Jimmy Hackett signing off for Joseph Stanford and today's guest Luka James saying ciao.